Hello and a very warm welcome to this special. We are looking ahead to the second ODI between India and New Zealand to be played in Hamilton, and this is a must-win game for India after they lost the first game by 7 wickets. That is right. India and their openers gave a 100-plus opening stand to India, Shikhar Dhawan and Shubman Gill. But now the question is whether they were fast enough really to take India to 300 plus total. The question that being, was that total of 306 enough for India? Because in the end, New Zealand chased down that total with 17 balls to spare and they won the match by 7 wickets. So there are now some changes that are required in this Indian team. We'll talk about all of that. We'll also talk about that brilliant 100 by Tom Latham, 145, one of the best ODI 100 scored by him, and he loves batting against India. He scored another 100 in Mumbai in 2017, and he was ably supported by captain Kane Williamson, who scored 94, and that match was won comprehensively by New Zealand. Now India going into the second ODI, what do they need to do? Are there any changes required? Also, what are the things that they'd like to learn from the first game? Some of the shortcomings, some of the problems from the first game. The number one problem was, and the question is that were Indian openers too slow? Shikhar Dhawan scored 77 runs. Also, Shubman Gill, he batted for a 50, but Shubman Gill was striking at 76. In modern cricket, is that acceptable in ODIs as well? If you look at how Indians played in the first 10 overs, they got to just 40 runs in the first 10 overs. They took 20 plus overs to get to 100 runs. Now, in any white ball format, now you'd see with T20Is changing completely, even in ODIs, the starts have to be better by the Indian openers. Remember, India is going to be playing at home in the World Cup next year, but that also means that they need to change their approach with the openers. When Shikhar Dhawan was asked about what was the problem after their loss in the first game, he said it was the bowling. Said that the total that the team scored was a par total, and he also said in the first 10 overs the ball was darting around. But having said that, this wasn't Perth where they were batting. Conditions were good for batting, and was there enough intent shown by the openers? That's something that needs to be looked at. So that is one thing. The other thing being, India went in with 5 bowlers. A question now is whether India will go in with another bowler, because they need 6 bowlers, especially given that 2 bowlers were making their debut in the first game. So there is a lack of experience in that bowling. And on top of that, if the match gets close, then the bowlers don't know what to do, which is what happened with Indian bowlers. What was the turning point of the last match, and what can India learn from it? The turning point from the last game was that 40th over that Shardul Thakur bowled. Now, in that 40th over is when he was hit all over the park. 4 fours and 1 6 by Tom Latham. He gave away 25 runs, and Tom Latham got all the confidence that was needed for him to go score 100. By the end of that over, Tom Latham going into that over was 76. By the end of the over, he'd scored 100. And that's where things changed for India. Nobody else could come in and bowl better. They kept bowling short, which is what Shikhar Dhawan spoke about in the post-match presentation as well, that none of the bowlers were experienced enough to change their plans when the plans were falling flat around Tom Latham and Kane Williamson. Keeping that in mind now, will India go in with 6 bowlers? If they do, what will they do with the playing 11? Let's discuss the likely playing 11 before we wrap this up. For India now, the other point was Rishabh Pant once again failing in white ball cricket. How often have we seen that from Rishabh Pant? His confidence is at an all-time low. He's been given opportunities but has been brought down the order. Couple of times in T20Is, he was asked to open, but then after that again was made to sit on the bench. At this point, Rishabh Pant is not playing the kind of game that we know that he can play. We all remember the 100 he scored in Manchester against England, which was just in July, a brilliant 100 to win that game. But again, in the first ODI, we didn't see that Rishabh Pant. We saw a Rishabh Pant who who was low on confidence, who was, really trying to hit every ball out of the park, and in doing so got out. So should Rishabh Pant be dropped? Should Deepak Hooda be brought in as an extra bowling option? That's something that India will look at. But having said that, do India really need 3 spinners? You will have a Yuzvendra Chahal. There is also the talk that maybe Kuldeep Yadav will be given an opportunity. But the way I see it, Yuzvendra Chahal will stay in the playing 11. Washington Sundar bowled beautifully, other than the fact that it was his cameo with the bat that actually pushed India to 300 plus. He was also very good with the ball. It was Indian bowlers actually bowled well. Even Shardul Thakur in the beginning with the new ball bowled well. And before that 40th over, in his 7 overs, he'd only given away 29 runs and had taken 1 crucial wicket of Finn Allen. So he was actually bowling well. But once again, the inexperience. When a batter is hitting you out of the park, you don't know what to do. Despite Tom Latham again and again hitting him on a leg side, he kept bowling short and was hit because of that. So with that extra, who will be that extra bowling option? Will they like to go in with Deepak Hooda and drop Rishabh Pant? That's a possibility. But that also means Rishabh Pant is the vice-captain of this side. Will they drop Rishabh Pant, the vice-captain? We have to wait and watch out for that. The other thing is Sanju Samson did nothing wrong. And in fact, it was his partnership with Shreyas Iyer that took India to 300. It was, him with Shreyas Iyer, and then Shreyas Iyer along with Washington Sundar, those 2 partnerships that propelled India to 300 plus. So Sanju Samson hasn't done anything wrong, scored 36 of 38 deliveries. Will he be dropped? We have to wait and watch out for that one. Will Deepak Chahar come in? Because as I just said, there are 3 spin options, and on those pitches in New Zealand, you'd want an extra seamer. So will Deepak Chahar and his experience, will India want to go in with that? That is the other big question. Also, I think we also need to look at the squad itself and the struggle that India finds itself in because of the imbalance that you see in the squad. What can you do about it right now? Nothing much, because that is the squad that's been selected for this ODI series. The only options you have here are either you go in with Deepak Hooda in place of Rishabh Pant or Sanju Samson, or you go in with the extra seamer in Deepak Chahar, who can bat a bit as well. But that still leaves your batting quite weak. And the good thing is that at least Washington Sundar, who was given the opportunity to bat at number 7, he played the role of that finisher beautifully, because that's one thing going into the series. One was wondering who was going to finish in the absence of Hardik Pandya. There is no Ravindra Jadeja, there is no Akshar Patel. Who is going to be a finisher? So Washington Sundar showed that he could play that role as well. That's it then on this special. Do keep watching News 9 for all the latest. We've been covering the FIFA World Cup extensively here on our channel. You can watch all those videos if you subscribe to our channel, and also press that bell notification button so every time we go live, you get the notification. That's it from us. Goodbye.